Heyo, and welcome back to my channel. This is kind of the face of me giving up on dramatic entrances. We're just gonna have a moment of silence for this tragedy. Okay, that's long enough. Today I want to actually share something that I wrote and then talk a little bit about it. This was inspired by a Bible verse that I read a while ago and it really intrigued me, and so I wanted to write a little piece on it, and then I was like, I guess I can share it and some of my thoughts on it. So, without further ado, which usually I'm good at giving a lot of further ado, but this time we're actually just going into it. It was giving way. Years of rust and friction and tugging, and the iron link was almost slipped apart. One more word, one more familiar whisper floated through the darkness into my heart. The chain broke. I was free again. Stretching my muscles, I looked around at my prison, and I saw standing before me my deliverer. I knew his voice well. It had spoken to me again and again throughout my bondage, the same words calling my heart loose. "Come," he said, his voice ringing with triumph. "You no longer have a place here. I have called to you night after night, and you heard my voice in the shadows. I have asked you over and over to break free, to come away with me, and your restless and wayward heart would have followed me home, if not for these chains. So I have tunneled, scraped, fought, and torn my way through to you. These walls could not keep me out. It is long since time for a prison break, and tonight we will make our escape." He held his hand out to me. "Set me free," called my heart. "Follow me," said the man. So I put my hand in his, and I followed. He led me from the room, downstairs, through hallways, past locked doors, to a hole in a wall and a pile of rubble, and out into the world beyond. "Where will we go?" I asked him. My heart trembled like a deer ready to run. "Anywhere," he replied. "Anywhere you want, I can take you. What does your heart desire?" "Perhaps to chase down the sunset," said my heart, the words coursing through my blood and setting my feet to tingling, aching to go. "Perhaps to climb mountains, to play in the surf, to race the wind, to dance with the stars. Perhaps to run on and on, simply to enjoy the freedom. Perhaps to fly." I looked all around me, overwhelmed by the infinite possibilities. My heart sang 1,000 new songs, and they were deafening like thunder. Who could decide which one to listen to first? "I don't know," I whispered through dry lips. "I don't know. I want too much. I'll never be able to do it all." "It doesn't really matter," he said. "It doesn't matter where we go. I promise you, you'll find your heart's desire at the end of any trail you follow. I promise you, life is waiting for you wherever you run. We can do anything. We'll find time. Will you walk with me?" And he led me on, leaving the fortress behind. We walked over rough ground in the darkness. I didn't know where the morning light would find us. All I knew was that my heart called for freedom, and this man was the only way to what I truly wanted. I looked around, straining to see through the black of the night. There was no moon to pierce the shadows, no stars to comfort and remind that light still existed so that I could hope for the dawn. My heart still leapt within me, anticipating the adventures before us. Surely joy in life was out here somewhere, not held trapped in that prison. And yet the night was long. And on we walked, and as time went on it seemed to me that I was growing colder and colder. At first I thought it was the night's chill, but then I realized my fingers were ice in his, and the cold was spreading from that source. "How long have we walked? Where are we going?" I ventured to ask. "Away, dearest. I am drawing you out into my world, where you belong. I will show you life." So I followed him, because my heart said it wanted freedom, and I grew colder, and the night grew only darker instead of brighter, and the ground grew rougher and sharper. And I stumbled on with him because now I was lost, and I couldn't find my way back on my own. I clenched his hand tighter, because I had nothing else to hold on to. No tether to hold me true. And deeper than my heart rejoicing in its new freedom, I began to feel like a ship cut from its moorings, and the chains that held the anchor had been left behind. I could see nothing in the blackness, and I fell more times than I took a step forward. The rocks were sharp beneath me, and always his hand didn't keep me upright. Instead, he leaned with me as I fell, so that there was no support as I hit the ground. "Hold me up!" I gasped. "You don't want anything to hold you." "Freedom!" sang my heart. The cold was spreading further, deeper, and I began to press against my heart, stilling its song. It beat a hesitant, stuttering pattern now. "Freedom!" it gasped, but it was weakening. I crashed again on the sharp rocks, a ship run aground. "Hold me up!" "No one will hold you," he said, and his voice was lower, and I heard the frost in it now, like the ice seeping from his hand into my heart. It was freezing, fighting, and freezing deeper. Gone were its songs of joy and excitement. The night was never ending. There was no life out here. He let go of my hand. "Hold me!" I cried, groping in the darkness. "Freedom!" he sang, his tune a dark, echoing mockery of my heart's, a harmony that soured the song. "I will not be your chain. You are free to follow your heart's desire, and I will not hold you back. I would not be so cruel." And then I was alone in the dark night, more alone than I had ever been before, yet tormented by a host of whispers around me. They poked and prodded and toyed with my heart until it fell still. The ice had penetrated to its core. One more touch, and it would shatter like glass. It was a heavy weight within me now. Why had I wanted to roam this darkness, to wander this wasteland? Every night, when I heard his voice calling to me, he had told me that it was foolish to stay in my prison. He told me we would see life as it truly was, without blindings or distortions or walls to protect my view. That there were better things to set my heart on, and my heart agreed, because it was weary of the fortress. But he called it out and he killed it instead of showing it true life. And something deeper than my heart cried out silently in the darkness. I remembered. I remembered the one who had held me every night in my prison and sung over me in the morning. I remembered the one who had created my bindings and lashed my wayward heart to that altar because I had known more deeply what I truly wanted. My soul had known where life was found and had placed its hope in him. I had known, deeper than any of my heart's yearning cries, that only he could satisfy me. I had wanted to stay with him, no matter what the whispers in the darkness told me, no matter how many times they tried to convince me that this was a foolish love, to despair of his promises and seek my joy elsewhere. And he'd known I would be weak, that my heart was easily swayed, that I would have moments of clarity and moments of deception, that I needed an anchor through it all. So he asked if I would let him bind me in that prison, chain my heart to that altar, hold me down even when I thought I wanted to be free. And I said yes, because my soul understood that I needed protection, that I'd be assaulted by the whispers with their tempting offers and their easy way out, and my heart would try to follow. I remembered now who I really wanted. A hand in the darkness took my own, and warmth spread through me now, a whisper in my ear that stilled all others, a name no one else could have known. His arms were around me, holding me fast in the darkness and anchoring my soul again. "You found me," I whispered. "You called me," he replied. I remembered my soul's silent cry. "Beloved." It had floated into the darkness unseen, unnoticed, unrecognized by me. I hadn't meant to send it, but he'd answered. He touched my heart, and instead of shattering it, he brought it back to life. He whispered the rhythm to remind it to beat, and it slowly, shamefully settled into the pulse. It wasn't keeping time the way it should, he whispered gently. I realized now that he was right. It had lost the rhythm of his heartbeat, had stopped listening so hard, and had messed up the tempo. I looked into his eyes, shining with their own golden dawn light. "I'm sorry," I said, and my heart, beating in time again to his own, remembered what it truly wanted, who it truly loved. "Freedom," it sang, as he held me fast and didn't let go. "Return with me, heart's dearest," he said. I nodded, because I had no words. So he lifted me into his arms, and he sang over me his song again until I was singing with him, and there was no moon, and there were no stars, no whispers in the dark of that night, no eyes to spy on us in that holy moment between us, as he carried me back to a stone fortress, an old altar, and those beloved iron chains. And the verse that was based on was, oh goodness, I don't know the reference. I'm so bad at finding stuff in the prophets, okay. This is Zechariah 9, just the first part of verse 12. "Return to your fortress, ye prisoners of hope." And I was reading that, and I was like, that's really interesting. What's being a prisoner to hope? And I was thinking about that more, and realizing, honestly, I think that that's a call that God has placed on our lives, is to be held fast by hope in a way that, like, there's absolutely no escape. Like, choosing this as our prison, stuck in a mindset of always believing his promises and always continuing to hope in him and believe that he's true and that he satisfies and that what he says will come to pass, that he is who he says he is, that he is good, and always hoping in that. Because, like, it's so tempting to look at circumstances and be like, oh, maybe God isn't as good as he said he was. Maybe this Christianity thing is stupid after all and we're wrong. And so it's really tempting to let go and, like, start looking for other things to satisfy us and to start thinking, we've been trapped in this terrible mindset. Like, what have we been doing? We've been wasting our lives. Like, let's go out there and do what we actually want to do. Let's find real freedom in life out there, real joy, because it's not here, clearly. But really, I think his call, at least to me in particular, has been to try to stay a prisoner of hope, to keep my focus on him and keep believing in him no matter what happens, and to keep putting my faith and my trust in him and in his promises. Yeah, like, this is my decision and I am not changing it. I'm kind of stuck here, trapped in this prison of hope. And this is where I always want to stay. I don't ever want to leave and have to have him reprimand me of just like, return to your fortress, you prisoner of hope. So, I don't know. I just thought that verse was really interesting, and so yes, that prompted some creativity. And I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and goodbye until more interesting things happen.